Breaking news in college football, where Michigan State is set to hire Oregon State's Jonathan Smith as their new head coach. That's the latest from our partners at 24/7 Sports. Smith just completed his 6th season in Corvallis, leading the Beavers to an 8-4 mark and a 3rd straight winning season. He'll take over from Mel Tucker, who was fired in September amid allegations of sexual harassment. So the coaching carousel in full swing as the offseason creeps closer together. Here, of course, is the statement from Oregon State University Vice President and Director of Intercollegiate Athletics, Scott Barnes, saying in part, quote, Coach Smith has shared that he has accepted the position of head coach at Michigan State. His decision follows weeks of conversations during which he expressed his support for Oregon State's short and long-term plans. They went on to say that, quote, we have immediately begun a national search to find the next Oregon State head football coach. So as I mentioned, that coaching carousel continues to move, and we start with this one. We welcome you into our CBS Sports studios. Haley Sutton, Danny Kanell. Danny, obviously this is the first of what will be many coaching changes coming up, but just your initial thoughts on Jonathan Smith taking this job.
So I think it's a perfect fit. I really do. This has been rumbled. There's been some rumors about this move taking place over the past, probably 5 or 6 days. There was some momentum gearing toward it, so it's not a huge surprise. But it is surprising seeing a player or a coach who played at his, at the school he's coaching, having a ton of success and walking away from it. But it's a very unique situation with the demise of the Pac-12, the future of Oregon State up in the air. I don't think even the most ardent, Oregon State fan is upset even remotely at Jonathan Smith, realizing, hey, this is an opportunity he just can't turn down. For Michigan State, they get a coach who is a culture builder, who brings some stability. It's been a mess there in East Lansing since Mark D'Antonio left that place. They've had, their share of ups and downs. But I think he's a great fit because it is sort of that school. When he was at Oregon State, he was always kind of underneath Oregon, and yet he competed with them. It's going to be the same situation in Michigan State. This is not a knock against Michigan State. It's the reality. They're always going to be kind of in Michigan's shadow, but Jonathan Smith can help them compete and win games against Michigan for sure.
So you mentioned it was his alma mater, Oregon State. We know the Pac-12 will likely be no more next year given all of the conference changes, but there's something special about coaching at the school that you played at as well. So this is kind of a hypothetical for you, Danny, but do you think if the Pac-12 was still going to be the Pac-12 next year, does he take this Michigan State job?
I don't. I think that has a lot to do with it because, the other thing that the Big Ten has done with the new TV deal and adding these Pac-12 schools that came in, Oregon, Washington, USC, UCLA, they have deep pockets so they can spend with anybody out there. Oregon State, we heard the athletic director's statement, they were trying to come up with a compensation package that was competitive, but ultimately it probably was in their best interest to say, you know what, go ahead and take the massive payday. We can't afford this type of contract. So, but if the Pac-12 had remained intact, you had kept all 12 members and you had a new TV deal yourself, then they might have been able to afford it and look at their budget in the years coming up and said, yep, we can secure them for the future. So I do think this is some collateral damage from conference realignment and it's a sad part of it. And I think a lot of it does forget about the college football fan. It's all about the money and the TV networks. This is just collateral damage to the bigger picture that has rocked college football over the past 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, we talked about the NIL earlier and how that's changed college football. Now we've had realignment with teams. You can't even keep up with who's playing where, but we do know this, that when Jonathan Smith took over at Oregon State, they were a 1-11 program. We saw his coaching resume just moments ago. Michigan State finishing the season last night in tough fashion to Penn State. How does Smith take his success that he had at Oregon State and carry that over to a program that has just been battered and bruised, especially this season for the Spartans?
He'll have to come in right away, hit the ground running. We were talking before we came on, like, does he finish out? Does he coach the bowl game? It's going to be really hard for them to do that, especially with the early signing period that takes place in December. So I wouldn't be surprised if he just leaves Oregon State, which is another tough situation for those players. But I think he can be competitive. Michigan State has resources. They're in the Big Ten. They have some boosters that have shown a willingness to step out in the NIL game and show commitment to the right players. So he's going to have to hit the ground running because the roster needs overhauled. Look at 2 of their players, and especially one at Florida State. Keon Coleman was a receiver at Michigan State. He decided to leave. Their quarterback, Peyton Thorne, was at Michigan State. Now he's at Auburn. They've lost some good players. He needs to bring that type of talent back so they can be competitive with anybody in the Big Ten.
All right, well, there you have it. Danny, thanks so much for your time. The coaching carousel is moving, and it is moving quite quickly. Here's a peek at some of the open coaching positions and where to expect. You see Northwestern getting their guy in David Braun. Michigan State, the latest to hire their new head coach, but a lot of interesting openings that we've got right now. We just talked earlier about Mississippi State and the candidates there. Texas A&M is an interesting one as well, but a lot of moving parts as the college football season comes to an end.